All right, so here, just gonna let him pop on in. Okay,
All right, who are we connected to?
consciousness of the all, known as Jesus.
Okay, so you are the 13th dimensional version? 12th dimensional?
13, but also out of this universe.
All right. So the people have some questions for you on this Easter Sunday. Our first question comes in from Angela. She says, "What are some ways your shadow affected you and how did you accept it? Any tips for us on how to do the same?"
The shadow aspect can always be seen as the naysayer. And so while I was in my awakening phase and growing and understanding who I truly am, connecting to my spirit self, as you may say, I had my shadow aspect trying to convince me that everything I was feeling, everything that I was thinking, it was all in my head. That connection to spirit was nothing more than a figmentation of my imagination. In religious terms, they might say that that little voice is the devil, but really it is a part of us. But to consider that part of us as the devil is to deny that aspect of us. It is to put a fear surrounding that aspect of us. If we take away the religious sense of the devil and just look at our light and shadow aspect, we can see ourselves as a whole. And so that is how I learned to integrate it into myself. I learned that this other aspect of me, the me that tells me that I'm not good enough, that I can't do something, that people aren't going to listen to me, and that it is a moot point to try to help anyone else. I realized that this is also an aspect of me, and it is a part of me that I need not deny, but more incorporate and try to understand. So I tried to understand this aspect of myself. I tried to send it love. I tried to find out where it was getting its information and why it was trying to give me this information. What did it think it was protecting me from? What did it think it was trying to keep me from? And in that, I found nothing but love. There was love in that shadow self just as much as there was love in my higher self, in my soul. And in that, I saw that the two were one. And if the two were one within me, then I was one, meaning I was whole. And if I am whole and the people around me are also aspects of that shadow, but also aspects of my higher self, that means everything outside of myself is also me. And that means we are one. Instead of I am one, we become the we. And so my advice would be to understand all aspects of you and to not put a label on it, something fear-based, something negative or wrong. We all have shadow. I had shadow, but we also have light. And in understanding this, you get to make a choice. Do I follow the shadow self or do I follow the light self? I'm not denying one or the other. I'm making a choice, looking at myself in its totality.
Okay, so looking at it from ascending out of the matrix perspective, we do have to choose a polarity in order to raise or lower our vibration to the next realm. So sitting in neutrality will keep us here to some degree, right?
To some degree, yes. There is a part that needs action. So the action is in the making of the choice, saying, I see my shadow self just as much as I see my light self. Which one do I feel that I resonate with more? Remember, we don't put labels on things. So I'm not saying that somebody who chooses the shadow self is a bad person, or just as we would say, somebody who chooses the light is a good person. There is no good and there is no bad. There is just making a choice and understanding that you have clarity in that choice. Now that I'm clear in making that choice, I can fully embrace that energy, whether I'm fully embracing my negative polarity or fully embracing my positive polarity. At least I have made that clear decision. And in that clear decision, you do help to aid others. Negative polarity helps the positive polarity just as much as the positive helps the negative polarity. All are needed, but you need to find out which one you choose to be.
Excellent. That's a perfect segue. Peg Shields would like to know, what are the percentages looking like? How many light, dark, in between? I assume she's meaning human souls. I assume it's 50-50 down to the soul exactly, but can you tell us more about that?
I understand what you are trying to ask, but when I view the, let's say, world, as there are many worlds, so as I look at the infinite number of timelines with the infinite number of eyes, which we have, I see that there is light and shadow in everything. So there's a 50-50 in every single person, just as there is a 50-50 in those that also choose neutrality. They have both sides and the middle. But I see that you're looking for percentages as in what people of this particular timeline have chosen to be in while still having the 50-50 within them. And I would say that it is more a 52 light to dark. In neutrality speaking, we don't discount neutrality as a separate category, but more, it is also light and shadow. It would be in the 52% light, as it would also be in the shadow aspect.
Okay. Next question. Honey Bee Dream, what should we know that has been hidden from us?
You, who you really are, who you truly are. Every turn in this world, everything that is presented to you, every turn of the page, so to speak, is something trying to hide yourself from yourself. We hide ourselves behind our clothes. We hide ourselves behind makeup. We hide ourselves in our television. We hide ourselves in our hobbies. We hide ourselves in our jobs. We're pretty good at hiding ourselves, but remember that that is just the shadow aspect of us. And we have to ask our shadow self why. Or maybe, perhaps, in your lingo, your ego. Why would the ego want us to hide? Why do we hide in our activities? Why do we hide in other people? Why do we hide behind the truths of others? Perhaps it's because that you know that if you were truly to step into your power, it would be something so incredible that the ego would be speechless and it is terrified of it. But remember, we want to send love and healing to that shadow aspect of ourselves. So as we step more fully into our light self, we heal that shadow self. We show it that there's nothing to be afraid of, that we can fully embrace it. And so asking who is putting the wool over our eyes, or why people might be putting the wool over our eyes, it is the ego of the world that is also you. Remember, you are your sisters and brothers. You are the people you hear on TV. You are other people's truths. And that's all incorporated into your shadow self. And so, in understanding it, in trying to send healing to it, in trying to find out where it got its information from, you step more fully into your sovereignty, into your truth, and who you really are. And in doing that, no other non truth or any other wolf in sheep's clothing is ever going to deceive you, because you've learned how to remove the mask, so to speak, within your own self.
Excellent. John Gross would like to know, how do I stay open to healing and performing miracles while keeping my heart close to you?
Staying open to healing is understanding that everything that is happening in your life is for you and your greatest good. It is seeing the healing in our most darkest moments. Oftentimes, it seems to be easier for us to see the healing in our lightest moments, perhaps the birth of a child, coming together with friends and family, making connections with people. That is the light. And we can feel into those. And we can feel into that healing energy because it is so visceral. It speaks to our hearts so much. But on the opposite side, whenever we feel distress, anxiety, we feel that it is harder to find healing in that, but it is not. It's just a different aspect of your heart speaking to you. Every time your heart breaks or is saddened, your heart is trying to tell you that this is the healing. This is time for the healing. It is just a different voice of the heart. It is still coming from the heart. That same heart that felt joy at the seeing of your first nephew or niece or your own son or daughter is the same pain it feels during a breakup or the loss of a family member or something horrific that you've seen on television. It is your heart trying to tell you that this is also something where there is great healing to be felt so that it could be filled with that joy once again. And stepping into miracles, well, that in itself is a miracle. For one human being to be able to see without judgment their own shadow self, to be able to look at a difficult situation without judging yourself and saying, I see what I'm feeling right now. I can see who is involved in this and how they are connected to me. I see how this could benefit me and my healing. With that broader perspective, you have created a miracle for yourself because you've now, for the first time, seen yourself as a whole. And there are many first times throughout our lifetime. Sometimes we just forget. And if you're looking for miracles in the sense where perhaps it defies 3D, then when you take a look at yourself as a whole, your shadow and your light, and you accept both as one, you see others as the shadow and the light that is within you, and you accept that as one, then you are operating something that is beyond 3D level. You're operating at 4D, 5D, 6D, and above. And it is in that if you're operating something outside of this 3D matrix, then you start to create something that is beyond 3D, in which case that would be considered a miracle. Perhaps you fly, perhaps you're walking on water, perhaps you miraculously heal the sick, perhaps you part oceans. It doesn't make sense in 3D because the healing that you're doing is not 3D.
All right, Russ Kaiser would like to know, are the beings most channel actually within the channeler's field? The field is the thin layer surrounding your aura on the exterior.
Restate.
I think he's saying, are the beings that most people channel actually within their field? I'm not sure exactly what he's saying.
So when it comes to channelers, just as the vessel that I'm utilizing now, every vessel has their own unique energy signature. Some vessels prefer to work with energies that are connected to that energy signature. It is like a magnet being attracted to another magnet. And so it comes to it, and sometimes they're able to allow that energy to speak through them because there is a part of them that connects with that particular energy. But remember that we are all one. So technically, every channeler would be connected to every energy, as every energy is an aspect of them. But some prefer to connect only with the energies that are, let's say, in accordance with their ego or in accordance with their higher self. It really depends on the channeler themselves. The channeler that I am working through and utilizing the throat chakra and heart chakra at this very moment is I'm using a part of not only their frequency, but just allowing them to be, I hate to say that I am using this person, but more utilizing their vessel as if I've just popped into somebody's vehicle and gone for a drive for a moment. I don't want to damage the vehicle. I'll be very safe, but then I return it to their hands. Could I be friends with this person? Possibly, yes. But it really depends on the channel themselves. Some people don't wish to connect with energies that are of a lower vibration because they fear their own lower vibrationalness. Some people only connect with the higher vibrations, and that is their choice. Some people are open to all types of vibration, such as this vessel, and that is up to them. I hope that makes sense.
So, is it because Tara's open to a wide range of frequencies that she can channel seemingly whoever we wish to connect to?
Yes, she is very well aware of her shadow aspect and her higher self aspect. And so she utilizes her understanding of her darker side, her shadow side, when she connects to negative polarities in understanding her own negative polarity. When she is connecting to more positive polarities, split right down the middle, she is also understanding her own positive polarity. And so she utilizes the understanding of both sides of herself in order to bring in those energies, understanding that she does have a light side and she does have a dark side. Not fearing one over the other, she is able to communicate with all.
All right. Susie would like to know, the 1950s, was Eisenhower shown your crucifixion as if he was there?
Your leader, president,
Yeah.
this is more in a, we put it, awakening sense, visionary sense. Yes, awakening. More difficult to describe. This was something perhaps you guys might be able to understand in your own world, your own time. Sometimes we see a flash before our eyes. Sometimes it's in our third eye, sometimes it's in our mind, sometimes it's right before us with our own 3D eyes. And we are shown this vision. And in this vision, as many of your ancient cultures might even call it a vision quest, there is a disruption of the ego at that time. Eisenhower was shown something, not by me, not by anyone else, but more by his higher self, brought something in for him to see. And in that, there was a, let's say, cut, a disruption along the line of the ego. Imagine that the ego is moving along a wire and the wire is snipped. Now the ego cannot continue. And so in that, he was asked to question himself, question who he is, what is his mission here on earth, understanding that he had a mission here on earth, understanding that he had a soul, understanding that it was different from the other voice in his head, ergo the ego or the shadow self. And so it was a tremendous event for him in his awakening process, would be the best way that I could put it.
Susie would also like to know, did he make an agreement with beings from another dimension?
We've all made agreements with beings in other dimensions, so the answer is yes.
Is it okay to live a lonely life, says Ancien.
There's no such thing. What do you define as lonely? Would it be a lack of other human beings? Because it's still not lonely, perhaps lonely as in being away from other humans, but you're always surrounded by energy, whether you see it with your 3D eyes or not. You're surrounded by other humans that you can't see. You're surrounded by Gaia herself. You're surrounded by animals, minerals. You're surrounded by all aspects of yourself. Even the wind that you feel on your skin is an aspect of yourself. So you're never truly alone. And so if somebody might say, I have devoted myself to a life of hermitage or solitude, to be away from humans, it might almost be erroneous, because to be in solitude would to be in nothingness, blackness, where there is nothing, there is no ground, there is no above, there is no below. It is an absolute void, to be in the void. And sometimes we do take ourselves into the void for certain types of healing. But I believe you're talking about more in the 3D sense, the void. And in this, there's nothing wrong. Sometimes we are better at seeing the mirrors around us in animals, in plants, in the elements, in the ground below us, and perhaps looking in our own physical mirror and seeing ourselves. And that's where the greatest healing can take place. It's all based on personal preference to be surrounded by other humans that you can see, or to not be surrounded by other humans, as one of your great philosophers may say. The choice is up to you.
Honey Bee Dream asks, is it true you had romantic relationships while on Earth?
Well, of course, I was a human being. To be human means to look for love not only within yourself, but outside of yourself as well. Remember shadow self and light self. And sometimes when we find someone, as I had, who I can see not only my shadow self in, but I can see my light self in, and seeing that this person was an aspect of me, and not just an aspect of me, but another aspect of my soul. More in the sense of what you might consider a twin flame. The other half of my soul was in her.
Does everyone have a twin flame?
To some degree, yes. In this current timeline, if we're only talking about one particular timeline out of an infinite number of timelines, then no, not everyone would have a twin flame. But when you take into account all dimensions, all timelines, then yes, everyone has a twin flame. For everyone at some point has decided to split their soul down the middle. Not split down the middle, as I spoke earlier, as a shadow self and a higher self. So there would not be a twin flame where one is the shadow and one is the light, but more the soul in its whole, in its entirety, its shadow and its light split in half, so that the other soul would also have the light and shadow of that other half. And so, in a more total view, yes, all have a twin flame. In this one timeline, no, not all have a twin flame.
Did your Earth relationships produce children?
One daughter.
And that was hidden to suppress your message?
Not just to suppress a message, but there was one of you earlier that was speaking about hiding and falsity, hiding something from you, so that you would not see your true power, your true sovereignty. And so it is a bit of information to keep from you in order for you to not see your own sovereignty and your own power. You might be asking, how could someone try to hide my power by keeping away the fact that someone may have a particular offspring? But it's who this offspring came from, and the fact that there are different sects of religion that have been created from my earthly figure. And in order to mold it into something that made sense for them in their particular dogma or religion, certain things had to be added or subtracted, just like in mathematics. Sometimes people want to create statistics that back whatever their agenda may be, so things are skewed or deleted in some way.
So was Joseph your uncle?
My father.
And does this mean that sin, as the church defines it, is different than sin the way you would define it?
Well, of course, as I only followed my higher self, I was not following a religion. Therefore, I do not follow the religions of others. I only follow my heart and I only follow my higher self.
Tegan Blackburn would like to know, what can we say in response to someone who is shouting hatred against others?
We would have to understand why this person is in our reality, whether their hatred for others is being directed towards us or to other people. Why is this person in my reality? This person is showing me a part of my own shadow aspect. Whether that shadow aspect would like to claim that part of themselves or not doesn't change the fact that it is a part of their shadow aspect. So we might say, how have I shouted anger or hatred towards myself where no one else could hear? And in that realization, we see that, perhaps this person is showing me something that I do not like that I do to myself. Therefore, I feel uncomfortable that they do it to others. And understanding this about ourselves, we have greater clarity next time we make a decision if we want to project our own hatred onto others as we do unto ourselves, or if we choose not to.
Russ would like to know, was the spark of light that began your life journey in the element of water?
Restate.
I'm not 100% sure what he means.
Do you mean consciousness born out of the element of water? My awakening born out of the element of water?
I think he means your consciousness, but I'm not sure.
If we look at water as you see it on your planet, the planet is mostly water. There is a reason for that. There is an energy to it, and there is a lot of life. There's a lot of creation that is born from water in the 3D sense. In the more energetic sense, water being an energy, it has this ebb and flow. It has this movement, constant movement. Even what looks like stagnant water still has movement within it. So, yes, I would say my consciousness, as well as the consciousness of the all, source, one, all of us, were born out of water, so to speak, more the energy of water rather than the physicality of water.
All right, looks like we're done with the questions. So I'll ask you one last question. What should we know that we haven't talked about today that you would like us to know?
I would like to touch upon the question from before, speaking about sin, as this comes up in many religions, not just Christianity. That to sin, meaning to commit something atrocious, is something bad, something to be punished. But remember, sin is an aspect of our shadow self. And so, let's take Christianity, for instance. The vessel that I inhabit is quite familiar with Catholicism. So, we will go with Catholicism. We'll go with the sin of greed. They say this is one of the 7 deadly sins. Deadly. Lots of fear. Something that we shouldn't look at. Same thing I was talking about before with the devil. That if it's the devil, if it's bad, if it's black, ugly, tar, then we must move away from it. But we look into this greed sin. What is the greed trying to show us? Why would we want to be greedy? Why would we want to hoard? In that we find healing. In the healing we find understanding. In the understanding we release that aspect of the shadow self. So it's more of a going inwards and trying to understand these so-called sins when really they're just aspects of our shadow self. And so when we heal that, it's easier for us to see the greed in others, meaning the unhealedness in others, because we could see it so clearly within ourselves. And in that, we are no longer bothered by other people's unhealedness because we are on our own healing journey. There is no elimination of a sin because another person said you are now absolved of those sins. That is not healing. That is something comforting that the ego likes to hear. There is no amount of labor that you could do to work off this sin because the sin, so to speak, I hate to use the word, is inside of you. It is just an aspect looking to be looked at with magnifying glass, looking to be healed. And it's nothing to punish yourself over. Why would you punish yourself for something that is so very human? To do that would be to deny your humanness. To deny your humanness makes you an easy target for control. Keep that in mind. And on this day, where so many particular types of the one religion, Christianity, may be celebrating as Easter, think about the Easter within you, not Easter as in a story that you have read about another person, but how does this Easter connect to you, inside of you? All the secrets of the universe are inside of you. The power of the universe is inside of you. There are many ascended masters, such as myself, that can aid you in your own ascension and aid you in your healing. But none of us, no matter what entity says, can ever heal you for you. We can never show you the light. You must find it for yourself. Find it in the truth. And where does truth and light hide? Within you.